WVON and WSAN Radio are here together to talk about the flooding in Texas. On board, we have Cleopatra Draper and Ronald Gordon.
But dialing back, as I digress, I'm going to jump into Kerr County. 161 people are known to be missing. Officials have confirmed 111 are dead. Of that, 28 of whom were children. And they were located at Camp Mystic, a Christian camp, summer camp along the banks of the Guadalupe River. The flood in Texas has been tremendous. Who's going to join me in conversation is WSAN Radio in San Antonio, Texas. Ronald Gordon is on the live line, and Ronald happens to be a native of Chicago. Welcome to the station, and welcome to the show.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
Uh-oh, your audio is a little choppy. Can you hear
choppy?
it? Oh, but it's better. There it is.
All right, okay.
Yeah, welcome to the show, Ronald. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. And yourself?
I am great. It's unfortunate we're talking under these circumstances, but I want to get down to the bottom line of what is known to be flood watch territory along this Guadalupe River and how we got here.
Well, they call it flash flood alley.
Your flash flood alley. Your audio is still coming in and out. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Maybe we'll put you on hold and figure out what's going on. Matt is going to figure that out. Matt is on the board with us today. But Flash Flood Alley is what it's known for along the Guadalupe River. And historically, as I've reported, you know, we hadn't seen tragedy along the river since 1987. So it's been some time. But yet and still, the casualty has impact across counties, not just Kerr County. And, you know, for WSAN Radio, I look forward to hearing what Ronald's report is because he's in San Antonio. So I want us to just hold tight with that. I see you all in the chat. And the devastation is real. And I think what really concerns me is the forecast across the country as we prepare for hurricane season. Ronald is back with us. Hey, Ronald.
Yes.
Oh, okay. That's much better.
Okay.
Yes. So tell us about Flash Flood Alley.
Flash Flood Alley, this is a region in the hill country, which we have been in an exceptional drought for over 5 years. And the ground's just like cement. But up under that ground, we have limestone. It's hard for that to soak in. So when that rain came, and when it came with a vengeance. And what happens is the way the ground is, the way the demographic is in the hill country, it's hills coming down, and that water comes down fast. It came down faster than anybody realized what was happening. There was this young man who was on TV saying he heard the roar of the water coming. By the time he turned around to get his keys, get in his truck, it was too late. That's how fast that water was moving. And when you're going downhill with the water, you got twists and turns in the river. And what happens, the twists and turns, building height is building up. Mm-hmm. And once it reached one peak down the river up to 50 feet high, it hit, in Comfort, it was at 30 feet high, a wall of water coming down. It was like
we're having some more audio issues, Ronald, as it's so in and out. I'm gonna have you talk back to Matt for a sec, and maybe we can get that audio straightened out. But what Ronald is expounding upon is how expeditious this happened. There, as I've reported, there are several videos that shows how swift this came. The scaffolding of this water came within 10 minutes. And between the 10-minute to 30-minute window, it was at 26 feet. That is crazy. And many of the children that was swept away, they were asleep. So this came in the wee hours. Well, one thing we divulged and unearthed is this regime, the Trump administration, attack on the National Weather Service. It is not fully funded. They fired a number of employees. And as a result of that, the predictions were the way that they were. Was it timely? Let's talk back to Ronald. Ronald, you were telling us about the escalation of how swift the water came.
Yes, it came with little or no warning, and it happened late at night. But this is not the first time this happened. Back in 1987, we had a flood similar to this, and it washed away a bus of campers.
Wow.
And when that happened, and they talk about the 100-year flood, this happened 38 years ago. You would think what happened 38 years ago, they would learn this lesson and put up detections to see the flood, but nothing has been done. It was a quote saying it'll cost $1 million to put that up. Okay. I think that, to me, that's worth it. Look all the lives that we lost. But Kerr County is known for flooding. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. It happens. And in Texas, when we get rain, we get rain.
And honestly, Ronald, that was the year I was born. So when I was doing the research, I thought about the decades to prepare. But here's my question. And I want to phrase it just as sensitively as possible. In my research of Mystic Camp, it was established in the early 1900s. So it has historically always been nestled along this hurricane alley. But how, in this current modern age, did they even get insurance? You know, I don't even buy property adjacent to a floodplain. So help me understand how things function in Texas when you are situated in what is declared to be a flood alley.
You know, that's a good question, because we have places here in San Antonio got flooded, and they designate that a flood zone. You can't build there. You know, sometimes common sense is not that common. But when you do things like that and you're there every year, it's almost like Russian roulette. Will I go down there this year and see what will happen? Maybe we won't get no rain. There's a lot of ifs, ands, or buts. And for them to sit up there every year and do this every year, it's just a matter of time. 38 years later, this is the most tragic flood we don't have in the state of Texas when it comes down to our kids. You know, that's not really counting in the Comfort area. Throughout Central Texas, we have flooding that affected everybody. I think we lost 168 lives, if I'm right, throughout Texas, and 87 was in Kerr County. So it's just not Kerr County, it's all the hill country that is affected. And as a building there, I have no idea why they keep on going back to that. Just throw this out there. In California, they stop insuring people because of the fire outs all the time. I said enough is enough. But yet here, they're not doing that here. Why? I don't know. I don't know if it's politics. I don't know what is greed. I don't know what it is. But to me, I will stop doing it.
Understood. Well, stay with us. We are talking to Ronald Gordon of WSAN Radio in San Antonio about the tragedy that has transpired along the Guadalupe River that does not just impact Kerr County, it's several counties in that region. 161 people are still missing, and 111 are confirmed to be dead. We'll be back after this break. And we are back on with Cleopatra. The time is 11:22. On the live line with me is Ronald Gordon, host at WSAN Radio in San Antonio, Texas. And we are having the conversation about the Guadalupe River and the travesty that has struck several counties in that region that have claimed the lives of 111 people, 28 of whom are children. And still to date, 161 of them are missing. So whether it's recovery and or rescue, this is where we're at day 5. I have to ask you, Ronald, talk to me about Governor Abbott.
Oh boy. Well, my opinion is what he said yesterday, you cannot compare sports to flooding.
And what did he say?
He said, this is what he said. Let me pull it up, quote unquote. He said about being blamed, only a loser will blame something. But if you're a winner, you got it.
What?
Now, how does that compare to what the world is going on? When he brings up something like that, comparing sports to flooding. So the bottom line is nobody want to be held accountable. And that's the bottom line. They're passing the torch. Early when this flood happened, they blamed the local authorities on not getting the word out. The timeline shows that the National Weather Service put out different reports stating there's a chance of rain. There was a flash flood watch. Then there was a warning. And then at 3-something, hell just broke loose. And now for him, the governor, get up, instead of saying, how are we going to fix it? He's not even past the blame game. He just deflected to another sports analogy on the reason why. But most Texans say they're not cutting that. Somebody's responsible for this. Yes, it was Mother Nature dropping all that rain. But where were all the things in place to make sure that this didn't happen, or to make sure to warn everybody? There was no early warning system. He never brought that up. But now they're bringing it up right now, stating, oh, we need to look into this. In my opinion, how many more meetings that we're going to have to talk about early warning for that? Talk is over with. We need action, and they're afraid to do action. I don't know why. Abbott is just in bed with Trump. Do as I say and say as I do. I know what's best for the people here in Texas, which is not true. You know, we know what's best for Texas. Sit down and listen to us. In other words, bring us to the table. He's not bringing none of us to the table. They're making decisions on their own.
Well, if I may, I'm going to share with you, and I reported on this, who's at the table. For the Federal Emergency Management Agency Review Council, the members, did you know Governor Abbott sits at that table?
Yes.
And that's with FEMA.
Mm-hmm.
And in cahoots at this table, the co-chairs are Secretary Kristi Noem of the Department of Homeland Security, Secretary Pete Hegseth, Department of Defense, and the underlings. Listen to this: former governor of Mississippi, Phil Bryant, Jane Castro, Mayor, City of Tampa, Florida, Mark Cooper, Chief of Staff for former Governor John Bell Edwards, Rosie Cordero Stutz, Sheriff of Miami-Dade County, Florida, Robert Fenton Jr., Region 9 Administrator, former Acting Administrator for FEMA, Kevin Guruth, Executive Director, Florida Division of Emergency Management, W.N. Kidd, Chief, Texas Division of Emergency Management. So here we are, another Texan of Emergency Management, and Michael Watley, Chairman of the Republican National Committee. Last but not least, Glenn Youngkin, Governor of Virginia. Do you see a pattern of the cronies that sit at the table with your governor?
Oh, yeah, I see a good pattern. One will be experience to know how to combat this. There's none there. To me, they're all just figureheads just sitting there.
Correct. And meanwhile, people have lost their lives. And for the logic in me, once I realized that this was Flash Flood Alley, that's the nickname, I could not comprehend how a camp that has been operating for nearly 100 years has been allowed to conduct itself along Flash Flood Alley in conjunction with this being a tourist site. So there were mobile homes camped out there. There were people visiting. This is a place where all is free. How is that possible?
Yeah, I just don't understand. Especially the tourists and visitors come down here. They don't understand what they're getting into when it comes down here with the flood. So they don't have a clue of where to go or what happened. And a lot of the RV parks, they were just washed away.
Correct.
And that's where a lot of our missing is from, because they don't know who was there. And that's the sad thing about it. You pull up to the RV park, you don't register or anything. All of a sudden this happens. You don't know. It took loved ones to show pictures of their family members. Have you seen them? So again, why? I really can't answer that question. Just people just go down there because it's a beautiful spot, and it is gorgeous. It is beautiful, green, the river flowing and all. It's beautiful. But when things happen like this, it takes the beauty away and puts a bad mark. And mark my word, this is going to roll over. People are going to forget about it after about 6 months or more. They'll be back out there doing the same thing over again. They will not heal to the warnings. They do it all the time, and they will do it again till another tragedy happen, and then we're on the front page again. It's going to happen again.
Well, here's the breakdown: protocol and policy. Like you said, there was no registration, folks willy-nilly, and many of whom have perished unaccounted for. In addition to that, your president, Donald John Trump, refuses to acknowledge that in this big, beautiful bill, not $1 is allocated to FEMA as we march along the precipice of hurricane season. So the lack of logic and reasoning from experience. I was born in 87. So we've had experiences since then that could attest to what is destined to occur. And yet we have a regime that is playing with the lives of many. And I guess the big question is, when are Texans going to wake up and realize Abbott is not in their best interest? Especially with that comment you just raised to me and our listening audience. That's cruel in the face of people trying to find their loved ones.
Yes, and kids at that. To even say something like that is, to me, it's just like, oh well, it happened. Next. That's how I look at it. There's no empathy. That's the word I'm looking for. There's no empathy down there for this governor. He could care less what happens. And the sad thing about it, they will never admit that they're wrong.
That part.
They're into that phase right now. Oh, we do anything you want to do. As Trump said, you tell a lie enough, people start believing it.
And there's some truth to that. One thing about it, Ronald, I got to have you back now that we have a connect all the way in San Antonio from Chicago, WSAN Radio. I wish you well, brother. Tell us how we can listen to you.
You can listen to my show Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. And I have guests on all the time. And also, the show, the radio station plays 24 hours a day. We play nothing but good old school R&B along with gospel on Sundays.
Excellent. Well, we look forward to it, and we'll definitely have you back soon. So take care.
Thank you for tuning in to WSAN Radio. Catch us on our YouTube channel, WSAN Radio SA. Subscribe to our channel and hit that notification button.